All right. Welcome to another edition of our Appsmith office hours. So before getting started, we are pretty excited to share you that Appsmith is trending on GitHub last week, and we also have like 3.9K stars on our repo. Like we added 1.8K stars over the last week. So thanks for all your love on the community. So yeah. So now today we have Abhinav and Smith from our A4 team. So I guess Abhinav will now take our about the new features that are released last week.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Vihar. So we have some exciting new features that have come up in the last couple of weeks. I'd like to talk about a few of them. Let me just share my screen. Right. So the first notable change that we have is the ability to drag and position our property pane. So as you can see, I can just leave the property pane here. It stays at this position even if I scroll across the canvas. And as I switch between two different widgets, it automatically changes and shows me the correct configuration. So that's one exciting feature that has come up in the past couple of weeks. The other new feature that we have is about the charts widget. We have something called a custom chart configuration that we can use to define our charts in a way that is completely configurable based on the Fusion Charts API. This was a contribution by our contributor, Ziger Hujboom, and this is currently available in the cloud and the self-hosted instances. Let me show you how it works. Uh, Going to the documentation over here, we have some documentation regarding the new changes in the chart widget. In the chart widget, as you can see, we have a new chart type called custom chart. We can find that over here. And once we click on the custom chart, it gives us one field in which we can provide the configuration. Now, this field has two properties, the date type property and the data source property. The type property is basically the chart type, which is the list of which is available on Fusion Charts. I'll go to the documentation in a minute. And the data source is the chart configuration as well as the data that we have to render on the chart widget. So here we have an example configuration that tells us what it really looks like. We have the chart configuration here, chart property, and the data property. So I've used the same information over here. The only difference is that I have added a new field called theme. Now this theme allows us to switch between different chart styles that are by default available in Fusion Charts. So if I remove this, we will have a black and white chart configuration over here. This is not the end of the configuration. There's a lot more available, which we can find in the Fusion Charts documentation. To reach this documentation, we can go to the Fusion Charts website, fusioncharts.com, developers, Fusion Charts Suite, and plain JavaScript. Over here, we can find it in the chart by chart type configurations, where I find it easy to understand what the configuration should be for a particular chart type. So let's say we want a line chart. So this is a line chart that we have, and this is the data source configuration that we use at Appsmith in the chart configurations. So all of this information can be used to define the charts. We can access the documentation over here at docs.appsmith.com, and we can also access the list of charts at Fusion Charts. Moving along, we have a new feature addition to our rich text editor. We have the ability to add tables in the rich text editor now. So if you click on the table, I can select, let's say, 6x6 grid. Okay. 6x6 grid over here. Click on it, and we have a table available in the rich text editor. That's all there is to it for the rich text editor. Coming back to another exciting new feature, we have the styled text. Now, the text can now be styled with different configurations, as we have seen earlier in the table widgets text styling. So we have the cell background in which we can select some of the standard colors, or we can give it any hex code or a HTML understandable name. So purple is easily used by the HTML configuration. So the markup will understand what this is. And we can also give it a hex value, which is, let's say, we want red, we can go with the hex value. Similarly, for the text color, we can use any of these available options, or we can go for a hex or a name. And we have the text sizes, the same list of sizes that we have available on the table widget has now been ported to the text widget as well. The font style, and this is text alignment. So these are the new style options available for the text widget. Moving on, this is the final element that I wanted to discuss today. It's the date picker. So earlier in the date picker, we necessitated an ISO string like this, which has the time zone information as well as the time information for proper encoding of the proper formatting of the date structures. But now we have a feature where it tries to automatically convert whatever string that we provided to an ISO string. Now this won't work for all the formats, but this will definitely work for the standard ISO format. So one of the formats that we have is the YYYYMMDD format. So let me just try and use that over here. Format. And as you can see, it generates the correct value correctly. So yeah, that's all there is to discuss, which I have for you today on the canvas. So Vihar, back to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Abhinav. I really love the fusion chats, and I hope the community also enjoys building new chats with it. So for next, I'll head it over to Sumit. So he'll be discussing about the community issues and some of the bug fixes we have resolved in the last release. So Sumit, over to you.
Hi, Vihar. So starting with some of the bug fixes. So recently we encountered an issue where if a viewer invites another viewer, then there is a issue with the permissions and they're not able to view applications. So that issue has been fixed now, and there should not be any problem with invitations. And then there were some issues that people were finding with the date picker widget, which has been fixed. Moving on, so there were some issues that we found in the community that people are facing. One of the issues is handling of undefined values in JSON. So currently what people do is they have to write JavaScript code to check for these undefined values. So what we are doing to address this is that we are going to provide a feature which automatically finds these undefined values and replaces them with some other value, for example, a null value, which will save users a lot of time. So another issue that we saw is people are still struggling with binding data to widgets, for example, a table, especially where the data is expected to be in an array format.
Right.
Vihar, can you listen to me? Your screen has frozen, so I cannot see if.
I
Oh,
can
we can
hear
hear
you.
you. We can hear you, Sumit. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay. Yes. So there's another issue where people are still not able to properly bind the data to widgets. Especially what we saw in some recent incidents is that the execution result that people receive is actually a string that looks like a JSON value. And when people try to access it as a JSON, it throws an error. So this is something that we have taken note of, and we'll try to address it in one of our future releases.
Right.
So again, there are some issues around performance as well that we're addressing, especially around table, where if there is a large number of columns and rows, then it slows down the app a little bit. So we are actively working on that, and hopefully in future releases we'll see a fix.
Right.
Over to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sumit. So as always, we are always striving to help the community in terms of issues, bug fixes. We are always active on Discord. So if at all you guys are stuck with anything, or if you find any issues, like you can always come to us. Our team is always supporting like everywhere on every medium on GitHub, Discord, and yeah, even we are publishing new content on blogs. So if we have any questions, we can take over, or else yeah, we could end the session. Do you have any questions? All right.
I guess we don't. Yeah.
Abhinav, meanwhile, can you share some of the fusion charts that people can play with?
Oh, sure. So as I've mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
it all depends on the configurations that are available in the Fusion Charts API. So all of these attributes that we can see in their documentation is something that we can always manipulate and use in our Appsmith charts, because our Appsmith charts are based on the Fusion charts. So some of the really neat features that we have is, one of them is theme. So we can take a look at what theme can do. So we can just Google them. So let's say Fusion Charts theme, and in this URL we can see a bunch of other uh, themes that we can leverage. Let me try and use, let's say, Zoom. So it's as easy as changing configuration from one to the other. So let me try if Zoom works, and there we go. It's a new theme that is being used right now. And as far as the other chart option goes, once again, we can take a look at all the features that chart widgets provide, Fusion Charts provides, and in the API reference, we should be able to see all the attributes that a chart widget has. So some of the attributes that we are using right now in the sample JSON that we have in our documentation are caption, subcaption, x-axis one name, y-axis name, and number suffix. Let me try and see if I can find an attribute that I would like to use over here. So how about, let's say, number prefix. So we have number prefix over here. Try and use US dollars right here. We have a number suffix. We can use number prefix as well. And as you can see, all of these numbers has got a prefix of $. So the Fusion Charts, the charts widget right now is as flexible as the Fusion Charts API.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, back to you, Vihal.
Cool. All right. Thanks a lot, Abhinav. All right, I guess that's it, everyone. So we'll be back again with more exciting new features, more bug fixes next week. So until then, keep the stars coming. Like we are always there for the community to answer your questions. Thanks all for joining. We'll be again back next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you all.
Yeah, thanks,
See
guys.
you.
Bye.